Came in this building way back in September 1974. And so I gave Homewood 35 years between my teaching and administrative duties I've had at the middle school and high school. So I am extra pleased to be back in the building today. So your question had to do with what did I think about Brown versus the Board of Education, that decision. I studied that case when I was taking school law, and I'm still applauding the results of that case, because prior to the Supreme Court ruling that segregation was unconstitutional, the United States was operating on a rule separate but equal. And there was no such thing. Even down today, I see vestiges of where separate but equal is not working. And as I said, I'm still applauding that decision that was made way back then, because things were not equal. I was one that came through a rural school in the first few years of my early education, elementary education. I wound up moving to Bessemer, Alabama in the 4th grade, and got there. I found the same thing that I had found in my old school. We had books that other students had used before us. We didn't get any new books. We were like secondhand students. And so I'm still applauding Brown versus the Board of Education, because that started the ball rolling in the right direction.
Okay. You mentioned that you still see, when talking about Brown versus the Board of Education, that you still see places where separate but not equal is not working. How do you feel about schools today and separate but not equal is still existing? How do you feel that is impacting us African Americans as a people?
I think that it still exists to a certain extent. It is not as blatant as it used to be. Fortunately, I came through Homewood High School. I worked at Homewood for many years. My children attended school through integration, and they were served well in integration. But I'm still looking at sometimes when we are not given what I would think would be the best of everything. We find reasons not to give the best, and we find reasons that we don't have the monies to do this now. Just abide with this for the time being, and we'll make it better later. But I'm just again, I'm thinking that we are still seeing evidence that separate but equal still exists in education, especially for black students. And I'm hoping that it will continue to get better. It's better now than it used to be, and I'm hoping that it will continue to get better.
Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate your answering our questions, and appreciate again you coming. So thank you so much, and we appreciate you, Mr. D. We're so glad to see you too.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad to be here. As I said, this is a good feeling just to walk back into this building.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all have such a new building now. Y'all have added and added and added and all that good stuff.
Oh, but part of the old structure. We don't throw out the baby with the bathwater.
All right,
Mr. D. We just don't. We know that old structure and that old foundation. A structure is nothing without a sound foundation. And I can remember you being here early on, and the sound foundation that was. I remember standing one day at the gate at the football game with you, and some people were coming through. They were from Sylacauga, and they came through, and you were at one while, you knew them. Oh yeah, Mr. D, how do you know all those people? I forget my children by the time they leave in May, but you knew them, and it just blew me away, and it left an impression And it wasn't just one race of people.
Yeah.
That you embraced all cultures, as I saw and watch you lay the foundation for many of our students that have gone through Homewood High School and the Homewood City Systems. So I appreciate you and appreciate having been able to walk with you as a colleague.
Well, thank you. I worked at Sylacauga High School before I came to Homewood, and I guess my being able to accept all races and all cultures helped me to be successful in my work. I think I gained points from being nice to folks. I was a band chaperone for many years, and before the band left for their various trips, they had to choose, the students had to choose a group to be with throughout the trip. And so I didn't have a group at first, but the group that I wound up with was a group of, can I say, misfits, children that could not get along with others in their group. And so they would wind up coming to Mr. D's group. And we would have the greatest time because they were not wanted by their original group, but in Mr. D's group, they were accepted, and we had fun. We did all kinds of roller coasters.
Mr. D, I was going to ask you another question, and you interjected accepted. Today, we hear the buzzword tolerance training. Tolerance and acceptance is two different things. Would you rather be tolerated in who you are or accepted for who you are? How does that look?
Gosh, Ms. Gant, I want to be accepted because that's just what I was taught. And growing up in my little home in Bessemer, Alabama, and my church that I still attend, my little missionary Baptist church, I want to be accepted, and so I don't put much stock in just being tolerated because that wears out if you're tolerated. But if you accept it, you're in for 100%. And so I've always tried to be accepted, and sometimes it took some doing on my part to make that happen. But somehow, after 39 years in education, it happened.
I keep fighting voices in my mind that say I'm not enough. Every single lie that tells me I will never measure up. Am I more than just the sum of every high and every low? Remind me once again just who I am, because I need to know. Ooh, oh, you say I'm loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I'm strong when I think I'm weak. And you say I'm held when I'm falling short. And when I don't belong, oh, you say I'm yours.
bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream into the current ends. He dips his wing into the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. But a bird who stalks through his narrow cage can seldom through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped, his feet are tied, so he opens his throat up to sing. The caged bird sings a fearful trill of things unknown belong to still. And his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged birds sing of freedom. The bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade winds soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on the dawn bright grass. He names the sky his own. But for a caged bird to stand on the grave of dreams, his shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped, his feet are tied, so he opens his throat up to sing. The caged birds sing a fearful trill of things unknown belong to still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for a caged bird sing of freedom.
Well, in doing a bit of research, I just determined that there were like at least 20 ways that a textbook company, along with the teachers, along with parents, it's like an integrated approach. It's something that has to have begun earlier in a child's life so that they would understand exactly what's going on. Instructional material is very important, like photographs, maps, lesson plans. Well, to do that, they have to have a teacher's guide and questions and research. You can have textbook and documents. You can have oral history, that is, invite people in so that they can give a first-hand account. You can have visual works, that is, to have some still images as to what's going on. Textbook companies can have first-hand accounts. They can have pictures within the textbook. You can also have TV news film collections and ask that department to come in and show clips of that. You can have oral history collections, video documentaries, and interviews, I think, are very, very important of those who lived during that time period to help a student to get a full view as to what happened to that particular person. You can have comparative studies as to what has gone on and what is going on even today. There are lots of civil rights institutes throughout America that you can get materials from their digital libraries. You can have inserts of accomplishments into the textbooks. You can go to the libraries and ask them. There are many Peabody Awards collections. So there are a plethora of things that a textbook company can do. For example, you can ask and let them know that there are things that they can do to help the teacher understand, help the child to understand. Otherwise, if not, then they are lost. But emphasis must be placed upon African Americans because America has been built on the backbones of blacks. And so as a result, it's significantly important from the beginnings of the American society that Africans were here not because of a voluntary situation. They were the only people who were forced to come. But since here, they have been so phenomenally blessed about many things. And if people, no matter their color, their race, their ethnicity, their backgrounds, whatever, they can learn so many things that African Americans have done to help the American society to come as it is. I did have a slew of information in regards to, it's a humorous poem, so I hope it won't be too long, but I do want to give a snippet of information. It says, there were a group of people in the American society who wanted to rid themselves of African Americans because at the time, well, they were called Africans. that they said, well, if we get rid of these people, there will be no more crime, no more drugs, no more violence, and no welfare. So they got rid of, they called themselves all of the Africans, and sent them back and did whatever they wanted to do. And this is a humorous situation. It's rhetorical, and it's like helping people to understand how important the African American contribution has been to the American society. So they had a new America, but as they turned around, they saw, but this is not the American at all that we wanted. They came to a barren land. There were very few crops who had that flourished because nations were built on the slave-supported system. There were no cities with tall skyscrapers because Alexander Mills, a black man, invented the elevator. And without it, one finds great difficulty reaching higher floors. There were very few cars because Richard Spites, a black man, invented the automatic gear shift. Joseph Gamble, also black, invented the supercharged system for internal combustion engines. Garrett Morgan, a black man, invented the traffic signal. Then as time went on, furthermore, one could not use the rapid transit system because the procurers of the electric trolley, which was invented by, guess who? Another black man, Albert R. Robinson. Even if there were streets on which cars and rapid transit systems could operate, they were cluttered with paper because an African American, Charles Brooks, invented the street sweeper. There were few, if any, newspaper magazines and books. Why? Because John Love invented the pencil sharpener. William Purvis invented the fountain pen. Lee Barrage invented the typewriting machine, and W.A. Love invented the advanced printing press. They were all wondering, oh my goodness, whatever shall we do? Even in America, they could not write letters and articles and books. Why? Because they had to be transported by mail. Well, guess who invented the mail drop system? His name was Philip Downing. And the counseling machine, the postmarking machine, all of these were invented by things that we never have been placed into our history books. The lawns were brown and wilted because Joseph Smith, who invented the lawn sprinkler, and John Burr, the lawnmower. When they entered their homes, they found them to be poorly ventilated and poorly heated. You see, Frederick Jones invented the air conditioner, and Alice Parker, the heating furnace. Their homes were also dim, but of course Louis Latimer later invented the electric lamp, and Michael Harvey invented the lantern. Granville T. Woods invented the automatic cut-off switch. Their children were not clean. They were barefooted and shabby. Why? Because we have a man who invented the shoelacing machine, whose name was Walter Sammons. In other words, what I'm trying to say is that there were so many people, so many things that were cared for, dealt with, and invented by others of African American descent. I could go on and on, even up until today's time, about Crest toothpaste and Folgers coffee, Bounce fabric softener, Safeguard, and all of these were soaps and different kinds of things that were invented by Dr. Herbert Smitherman. In other words, we know about what's going on today, but many people don't know all of the things that African Americans have contributed to this society to make the society a sanitized society, a clean society. But we are a people who need all people. We are a nation that we have to reconcile our differences. And as America has been number one, we must remember our source of strength, our source of power. We have power. Use it. You have a brain. Use it. Choose this day to whom you will serve and be kind to each other. So those are some statements I really wanted to say to our
In 1954, the U.S. Supreme Court issued its verdict in the historic case Brown versus Board of Education. This was a watershed moment in American history as it declared that the previous practice of separate but equal segregating white and African American students into separate schools was unconstitutional and must be ended. 9 African American students applied for enrollment at Little Rock Central High School, which had been previously all white. While the Little Rock Board of Education superintendent agreed to this, the governor of Arkansas at the time, Orville Faubus, deployed the Arkansas National Guard to support those opposing integration and to block the students from entering the building. President Dwight D. Eisenhower intervened, federalizing the Arkansas unit and ordering them to escort the students to their classes. This situation brought light to the severe racism existent in the country at the time and the challenges that students of color would face as children of different races finally attended schools together. This piece, entitled The Nine, commemorates the anniversary of the Little Rock Nine. Written by Mr. Randall Standards, we are proud to present the Homewood High School Chamberlains under the direction of Mr. Chris Cooper and the network under the direction of Mr. Scott Thorne, as they honor the 9 students: Ernest Green, Elizabeth Eckford, Jefferson Thomas, Terrence Roberts, Carlotta Walls Lanier, Minjean Brown, Gloria Ray Callmark, Thelma Mothershed, and Mobile Pateo Beals. Their courage and conviction will always remain an example of the power of the human spirit.
Show me the light, show me the light. Lord, hear my voice, show me the light, and lead me home through endless night. Show me the light, Lord, show me the light.
We're a long way from being perfect, but we certainly are not what we were when I started out. I believe that our participation at Central is one of those many steps that's gone to change this country for the better.
Show me the light, Lord. Show me the light.
Newspaper, the Arkansas Gazette at that time, indicated that the Brown decision was going to change the face of the South forever. I remember those words, and I thought to myself, good, because I think the face of the South ought to change. Decided that this was a year that we were going to support each other. We were going to try to do as well as we could in our academic work. Some were a lot smarter than me, but I also was determined that this year I was going to graduate.
See, Black people have had a history of, let's say, success, let's say horrors, but it all cultivated in how we are as people today. Some of those are bad things, some of those are good things. See, this system has brought us up to be, let's say, insensitive, callous, and those things have also contributed into how we act and how we raise our children and how we work in our day-to-day lives. But we've also been allowed to overcome these things through our spirit and through the things that we do and our mental strength that we had to build throughout time. And where this system has tried to suppress our minds and try to control us and stop us from being ourselves and having an identity. That's where we go into things like stereotypes, where we are boxed into this little generalization of, let's say, a certain idea of who we are as a people. It's not who we all are. It's what people think we are, and that's not the truth. We are individuals. We have our own dreams. We have our own thoughts. We have our own wants, needs, and desires. But as a people, what we want is equality and equity, and that is freedom. That is, you can't have equality without equity, and that's what we need as a people. And there are things that stop us from this, like, let's say, systemic racism and physical racism that really hold us down in like penitentiary systems, jobs, day-to-day life, and especially mentally and physically. Like, there are things where our parents and our ancestors have gone through that our work can be grueling, and it can be wearing on the mind. It can wear down the mind, the soul, but we still end up moving through these things as a people. And I think things that we need to do is to come together as a people to be able to really express what we need in our souls. And in our souls is like what we want as a people and what our ancestors have always wanted. And that's what we want. And we want to be recognized as people. We want to be recognized as human beings. We want to be recognized as individuals, people who have power within themselves, just like everyone else. And we want to have the same opportunities. You see, about 50 years ago, we had to fight, the civil rights movement. We had to fight to gain certain rights, be able to live as people, and walk around day-to-day lives without feeling bogged down or insecure or stopped, and then it ends up making us feel fragmented because of those things that we went through. But we still had the power to come together, and that's where the civil rights movement came. We had all those people like Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, and we also had many other writers that contributed to other triumphs, like how we are very artistic and creative. We are very passionate about the things that we do. Like in the church, religion is a very big part of who we are, where we just go into the church and there's so many people there, we can just communicate and collaborate, and we can truly communicate how we feel as people around our people. And we also want to spread that to others so they can know how we feel and what we've been through. And I think that a lot of people aren't really educated in what we've been through and the things that have happened to us. We have been oppressed to where there have been things that they've destroyed our systems, our communities, where we tried to build great communities like Rosewood and the Tulsa Massacre, where they destroyed thousands of Black-owned businesses and people, and killed men, women, and children, just to destroy the whole platform in itself, just so we couldn't get up. And we need people to really see and understand, and we need their help so we can stop these things from happening to us. And they can also help with that, with being supportive, understanding, and when they see things like this, they can stop it. They can help us, because we're in a place a lot of times to where we don't have any help. People don't want to support us. People don't want to help us. They don't want to talk to us. And that also comes from a place of fear that the system has imbued within other people within who we are, like who we are. Like, you know, the system that, you know, black people are all gang members, that we all, that we like to fight. We have, you know, guns and sagging your pants and rapping. It's like, that's all they think we have. And that's not it. We've brought many things into educational systems, human rights, and just really making people and lifting people up in who we are, because we are magnetic people, and like in arts, like we in music, you know, that's one of the things that we really thrive in, and writing.
Schools. What has seeing school systems become more diverse meant to you, and what do you think are the pros and cons of diversity in schools?
Well, basically, diversity should bring out the best in everybody. Bottom line is, kids learn better when we're all in it together, which means that they have an opportunity to learn from each other. The bottom line is, with diversity, it all boils down to money. People who have a lot of money basically can do and go anywhere they want to. Some, not so much. It's harder. And what diversity does, you have a little bit of both, and kids get to see people maybe not like themselves and learn from each other. And the one thing about diversity, you develop communication, which is what is needed now. When kids sit and talk to each other, it helps with diversity. When kids talk to each other and listen, they become better people. And as educators, that's our job, to help kids to learn and to grow and to become better citizens. And the best way to do that is to put young people together.
Okay, and somewhat in that same vein, part two to that question, how do you feel about what you know that black people have endured?
Well, obviously I've seen in my 65 years a little bit of everything. And it's been, people have been through things, they've suffered, that's a word you've heard, but people have endured. I think we need to understand it this way. What I've seen people suffer, I've seen people mistreated, I've seen people with their names being called in an ugly way. But what I've also learned is that by doing that, I learned something from my dad. You treat people the way you want to be treated. I've also learned that not all people are bad. The majority of them are good. And we have to accept and look for the best in people. So when I say that it's been tough, yeah, it's been tough. But what I've learned by inclusion, by diversity, around being around good people, it's worked out. And as young people, it's important that you get involved. As older people, it's important that you stay involved.
So getting involved would be your message to young people today?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Get involved in any way, any kind of program you can get involved in. That can be done through the church, through schools, through your community. If you can volunteer and go to even a homeless shelter, you learn things. If you can volunteer to help somebody that may be a little bit different from you, I think you gain more than they do.
I started Homewood. I grew up in Homewood back in, well, all my life really, but in like 1965, we all black students had to close up our school, Rosedale, to come and be part of the Homewood system. And then when I went to Edgewood, it was totally different from what I was used to. It was just, you know, we was kind of treated real bad by the students, not by the teachers was dealing with us, but the students just made us feel so uncomfortable. And, you know, times has changed, because that was like, I graduated from Homewood in 1976, and then I came back to work in 2000. And when I came back, I was just so amazed to see so many black students here at Homewood. You know, so time brings about a change. So in saying that, I want to thank Thank you for watching our program today on Black History. The students and teachers and guests have enjoyed putting together a special program for you. As quoted by Maya Angelou, all great achievements require time. If we all stay to the course, we can achieve the dream. And the dream for me is here at Homewood High School. Thank you.